Hello everybody, Mike Maloney with the Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library. We're on day 4 at the convention, VFW National Convention in right here in Kansas City, Missouri. We have a fantastic veteran right here in front of us. He's a district commander in Tennessee. Please tell us who you are and spell your last name.
Kimberly King, K-I-N-G.
All right, Kimberly. Let's go back a little bit before we talk about all the great things you're doing right now. Let's go back and hear about your childhood and where you grew up and your parents. And you went to high school and how you got in the military.
Well, I grew up in Louisiana, single mother. My dad left when I was 2, and then all my family, everybody I lived with died by the time I was 17. My mother, my sister, my grandparents, everybody I lived with. So by 17, I was kind of on my own. And then I was in college, and then I was studying marketing in college. So I had no exposure to anybody in the military at all. But it was in our senior year in marketing, and we were supposed to do a thesis on a company we'd want to work for. So I went to the library, as you did back then, and Forbes magazine had an article on the top 100 companies in America to work for, and would you know, the Navy was number 4. And that was interesting because it was other companies that were, produced products in there.
Right.
So when I read the narrative, it said, fosters a family environment. Well, for me, who had lost a family, that just seemed like a great fit. Here's the company that you serve your country and you get a family. This just seemed like a good idea.
Right.
So after I graduated, I joined. Now, I did try to join as an officer, but in those days, they didn't have a lot of women
What year
in
was
the
this?
Navy. This would have been 85.
Right, okay.
And they didn't have women on ships, so he told me you had to have a 4.0 GPA out of college. Well, very few people had that. And he goes, right, so the bar is set high, so we're not saying it's restricted for women, but we set this bar so high that almost nobody qualifies. So he advised that I join as enlisted and then just slip over when it eased up. Well, it doesn't work that way. But anyway,
Right.
I joined the Navy, and then I was in for 22 years, but not on ships, but on planes. So I got put in the aviation side, and then did 22 years and retired as a chief petty officer.
So you got in the aviation side. What, on and off carriers or?
So I initially
LPHs?
didn't know what to do because, like I said, I never had anybody that I was around that was military. So I told the recruiter, just pick something you think that I would do good at. Well, I know that's crazy now, but at the time,
Right, yeah.
and he really liked me a lot.
Yeah.
And I had been doing races anyway around town, so he got me to do running races and swimming meets and triathlons and stuff for the Navy for the year. So I told him, pick something you think I'd be good at, and he picked aviation administration, which I didn't know what that was, but I just trusted him.
Okay. Yeah.
And went to school, and the first day that I had to do the job, I finished what I had to do in 10 minutes. And I wanted more to do. And I asked the petty officer in charge of me, I said, I'd like some more to do. I mean, I'm happy to help. I don't care what you want me to do. And I'm glad he did this. He said, you have a lot of initiative. I want you to see the Master Chief. The Master Chief was always an enlisted advisor. I go to see the Master Chief, and I said, I'm very happy to help you with anything you need because my day is free. And he said, you have a lot of initiative. He goes, I want you to go see the aircrew people across the base at VR 60. They're looking for females to fly on planes as aircrewmen. And that's crazily how I got into that job. So then I was flying on planes as a loadmaster. You started out as an aircrewman, but then
The loadmaster.
in those days they could smoke on planes.
Oh yeah.
And so when the aircrew were dying to smoke, so the loadmasters would say, Kim, or whatever I was at the time, can you do this, that, and the other thing while I go smoke, which was all the loading things. Well, in time I realized I can do this job. So I applied to do the job, but back then, again, it wasn't very female friendly. So I asked and I asked for 2 years, probably 12 times. And the Master Chief said, just keep asking. And eventually you're going to get somebody who's going to trust you, but you can't screw up once, because then they'll justify having no women on the planes in that position.
Right.
Which was actually good advice, because then I learned the job at a high level. So then it was a fluke on how this all fell together. But anyway, that's what I did in the Navy.
Right. And so you were pretty much a loadmaster the whole time?
The
or?
whole time.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, excellent. And then you said 22 years?
22.
Yeah. What'd you do after that?
Right. So we lost our house in Hurricane Katrina. That was in 2005.
Oh.
So that was gonna be where we lived in Mississippi, near the coast, not on the coast, but we got wiped clean. And so then we had to live in a FEMA trailer for 2 years. And honestly, when you lose your house, the last thing you want to think about is getting another house. It's kind of, I don't know, you want to do it, but you don't, in a way. So we lived in a FEMA trailer, and then my husband found Tennessee. We had one relative that lived in Tennessee, so we thought, well, we'll move close to her, and that's how we got into Tennessee.
And it's District
5.
District 5 in Tennessee. All right, and
so then
clearly,
if you've been in the service and then you're doing this high level job, and then all of a sudden you're not doing any job, it's hard on the soul, because you feel like you still want to serve, but you're lost. And this friend of mine said, oh, you need to go to this gun permit class they're having at this place. Okay, so I went. And the instructor said, oh, you qualify for VFW, just like that. Well, I didn't know anything about VFW at all, and that's ridiculous. I should have known that. But that's how little advertising VFW does. And
how did you qualify? What was...
Because all the flying I did, I flew in and out combat zones.
Right,
we
gotcha.
worked in combat zones everywhere.
Everywhere, got you.
So that was easy to qualify.
Right.
But I went to this is what's funny, my second meeting, in the post. I went to the bathroom, and when I came out, they asked me if I would consider being the commander of the post. I didn't know anybody, I didn't know the post number, I didn't know anything about the VFW, and I'm like, what's wrong with the job? Because it just seemed weird. And they said, no, we knew you served as a chief petty officer, and we knew how those were trained at a high level, so we think you could take this on. So, and I wasn't used to men doing that. Think about what I said. In the past, I had to prove myself over and over.
Right.
Here, these guys are much older than me asking me to run the show.
Yeah.
And that was 6 years ago now.
Yeah, and so you've been post commander for 6 years too? Yeah, and we were talking earlier, you're district commander?
And I got district
And they
commander
just reelected you as district commander. Well, that's normally
10.
something, because normally, district commanders rotate. That's fantastic.
But I have a great post. I will admit, we have great people in that post, both men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm proud of with the post, we've made All-American 4 years in a row.
That's outstanding.
And that's a state record for
what's
us
the post
in
number?
Tennessee. Huh?
What's the post number?
10904. And the district this year, so we had 10 posts in the district, and 6 of those out of the 10 made All-American.
Very nice.
And that was a record. So I'm real proud of everybody and what they do. But yes, it's like you found your footing again in the VFW, to be able to give back and work where you felt lost after retirement. I think most of us do.
Oh yeah, I always say it's
They make us get out at a younger age. I mean, you're not 65. Yeah.
I always say it's part of our DNA. Continuing to serve is part of our DNA. It's just, if we don't, what you said, every other veteran has said, I just felt like I had to do something,
Well, we want to serve the country, and we're still not old enough to retire, but they tell you you're done. Right. And it's hard on the soul, because you want to help. I think it's just built in that you want to do that. And so this was a good move. So I really thank Gary Benton, who was the initial one that when I went to the bathroom to say, hey, do you want to be the commander? Because I never would have even thought to do such a thing. Not after years of having to talk people into letting me do jobs as a woman. That
Right.
so, and my husband is the auxiliary president, so we're totally flopped.
You know what? That's, that's fantastic.
And it is, and it works
We need to break
well.
that. We need to break that. I saw a female veteran with a shirt on, and said, "This is what a veteran looks like." I told her I love that shirt, you know, because people have these perceptions of, and it's wrong. And we've talked about this before. The military is about 15 to 17% female. The VFW is not.
Well, I do remember when I went to boot camp, they said it was 94% men. Of course, I thought that sounded like a good statistic. Honestly, I did.
Right.
They meant it as a disparaging remark in boot camp, so they punished the crap out of me because I went, yes. But, yeah, so that just shows you how it's shifted up somewhat.
Right. It's fantastic.
Well,
tell me about your... Tell me about. You said you had a husband, kids.
Yes.
Grandkids?
Yes, we had 4. We lost a child, one son, but we have 3 other sons, and they have children of their own now. And one of the sons is in the Navy, so he took after Mom, and he does call me for, advice, and that's good. But he's doing very well, so I'm proud to have him doing that.
Do you make him call you chief?
No.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Well, it's a very much a pleasure talking to you.
Well, thank you.
Hope you had a great convention, and
I did.
congratulations on all that, All American, and doing a great job with your district.
Well, thank y'all for doing this for other people.
Yes,
Appreciate it.